Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we are going to talk about how to increase your influence, impact, and income. And I'm going to share my screen here so that you guys can see my PowerPoint presentation, because there might be a few things that you want to take some notes on. And just give me 1 second here to ensure that, I think I got to click over here. Okay, good. All right, just wanted to make sure my mouse and all that was working. So one question I want to ask you is, and you guys can put this in the chat area, what is the one thing an entrepreneur needs to be successful? And Chantel, I know you already know the answer because you already heard this. Bob, support. Yes, you do need support. Motivation. Yep, you need that too. And Chantel says, LOL, my lips are sealed. So the biggest thing you actually need to be successful is visibility. If you are not seen, if people don't know you, know who you are, and know what you do, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And I actually, this is me. I think I was about 7 or 8 years old there. And I was the invisible girl who could not write. And maybe, oh, thanks, Bob. Maybe on another time, I will share my full story of what happened to me. But I'll share a few brief things here. So when I was 4 years old, my mother died. And, you know, that was a huge thing in my life, not having a mother. It made me different from all the other kids, because I can tell you back in Toronto, Ontario, Canada in the 70s, you know, there were very few single dads. I mean, I definitely didn't know anybody who was lived in a single dad home. And so it kind of set me apart. It also set me apart because I'm half black, half white. I don't even have a black afro. I have a red afro. And I can tell you for sure that in the 70s, auburn red was not a popular hair color. And so it also didn't help that I was a head taller than anybody my own age. So my current height is 5'10". So I was always very tall. When you put those all together, I felt like I always stuck out like a sore thumb. And if one more person had said to me, Kim, what did you do? Stick your finger in an electric socket? Somebody was probably going to die. Because I just really got tired of hearing that. And in grade 2, and this is part of the story that I can't get into too much, I was told by a teacher, my grade 2 teacher, that I shouldn't write, that I wasn't any good at it. And when you combined all those things together, I made the decision to become invisible. Because when you're invisible, then nobody can make fun of you. Nobody kind of notices you. But that caused a very serious problem in my life. Because there was a part of me that wanted to be visible. There was a part of me that wanted to be seen. I had gifts, skills, talents, and abilities, and I wanted the world to know it. But I was too afraid to shine because it was easier to be invisible, where nobody could see me and nobody could make fun of me and nobody could tell me I was bad at something, than to take that chance and put myself out there and be rejected. Because I was rejected a lot. And so I went through childhood becoming invisible, and I became very good at it. But there was a problem. When I became an adult, I didn't want to be an invisible anymore. And when I was in my early 20s, I started to become an entrepreneur. Well, you can't be an entrepreneur and be invisible because you don't get business, you don't get sales. And so there was this constant battle within myself to be invisible and not be invisible at the same time. And I struggled so much as an entrepreneur because I was afraid to let people see where I could shine and let people see how I could help them. And so when I got looked over all the time, it seemed to confirm that I wasn't worth anything. The problem is I was not letting people see me. So I wanted to be seen, but I wasn't letting people see me. And the more people didn't see me, the more I wanted to hide. And yet the more I hid, the more I wanted to be seen. It was just like this incredible, vicious circle. So just put in the chat box, have you ever kind of felt that way where, you were hesitant to wanting to be seen because you didn't know how people would react if you let them see the true you and how you could help them? Yeah. Yes. So it created a real dilemma in my life. And that dilemma only really started to get resolved about 10 years ago, when I started to write blog posts and people started to see me. And then when I became an author, that really changed my life. I actually wrote the books to help my team members. I was in network marketing. I had learned a lot in those years of struggling as an entrepreneur, and I wanted to share it out with people. And writing seemed to be the best vehicle for me to do that. So I actually wrote 3 or 4 books. Network marketing, recruiting. It was like 50 different ways you could recruit people. I did MLM mindset minutes, so to help you with mindset issues in your MLM business, and then how to sell $10,795 a year in MLM. So that total was based on my company's top selling tier. So the first level was $10,000. So I came up with a formula, which I can't really remember right now, but I think the basis of it goes how many customers you have times how much you sell them each time, and how many times a year that you sell to them. So if you play around with those numbers, you can exponentially grow your sales just by changing one factor. So either increasing your customers, increasing how much you're selling to your customers each time, or increasing how many times in a year that you're selling to them. And so that book was just all on that. And how did you apply that formula? And I gave those books away for free on Amazon. I would do as many free days as Amazon would let me. And what changed me? I went to my provincial conference, and I had been giving the books away for a bit. And I had told people on Facebook that I would bring some copies with me because some people wanted the print copies as opposed to the ebook. And so I'd had some copies printed, and I went to my provincial conference. And you got to understand, I would go to conference and I did decent in my business, but I wasn't the rock star. I wasn't the top. I was still struggling with recruiting, though I was recruiting more and more. And I had a lot of things personally happen that was hindering my business. And I go to this event and I walk in and I'm standing in the registration line, and someone comes up to me and says, "Are you Kim Thompson-Pinder?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then they started going on about the book. And then another person heard who I was. I spent the next 2 days surrounded by people who wanted to talk to me about what I had taught about in these books. And I couldn't believe it. Like, I was sort of the mini star of this conference. And I had so many people come up and want me to train them that by the end of that conference, I actually started a 6-month coaching program, and people were paying me monthly to coach them on how to build a network marketing business. And I did not go to this event thinking I would come out with a coaching program. In fact, the exact opposite. I was going there to learn how I could increase my business. And because I had written these books and I was now visible and my expertise was shown, all of a sudden now people wanted to work with me. And that was an incredible turning point in my life, when all of a sudden I knew that it was okay to be me and let people see me. Now, that was the start of it, and it's just grown since that time. And when I started RTI Publishing, I just took that to the next level and really started to get out there and let people see that, yeah, when it comes to certain things, I am the authority in my niche. And I own that now, not in a proud, egotistical way, because believe me, I know my own shortcomings. I know my areas of weakness. And I can tell you for a fact that I cannot draw a straight line with a ruler. Okay, don't ever ask me to draw something. If I had to draw something to save my life, I'd be dead. Okay, I am also not the most organized person. So you see this nice background? Well, what you don't see is this is a very small office and everything else piled down around where you cannot see it. Okay, I am not the most organized person. Housekeeping is not my strength. There's a lot of business things that are not my strength either. And so I go to others when I need advice. I want to give kudos to Bob because over the last few days, Bob and I have been having some conversations. There was things I wasn't sure about in doing these networking events because I've never done one like this before. And so Bob has been that mentor to me that I went to get advice on, how am I doing this? What is it looking like? All these things. So I'm the expert in the area that I'm the expert in, but in all the other areas, I go to other people to get help and support. And I think that's something important to note is the fact that you don't have to be an expert in everything. You just have to be an expert in one thing. So what I want you guys to do in the chat right now is I just want you to own who you are. And just write in the chat the area that you are the expert in, that you're saying, this is what I know, and here is where I shine. So I'm going to let you guys do that, and then I'll read those out. And so what happened is that I needed to become visible. And so we're going to go to the next slide. Hotel, customer focus is where I shine. Awesome. Bob, helping leaders create an expert business that pays them month after month. Awesome. So when you're an entrepreneur and when you're beginning, everybody's in the ocean of security. The only entrepreneurs who aren't is if you already have a famous entrepreneur parent or you are famous, your parents are famous. So that gives you a level of visibility because you didn't earn that visibility. You inherited that visibility. But for the 97% of people, when you start a business, you're in that ocean of obscurity. Nobody knows who you are and what you do. And you need to be able to break out of that. So Laura helps entrepreneurs using LinkedIn to get seen and heard. So thank you, guys. That was awesome. So you need to be able to become visible. And so I have what's called the positioning ladder. So everybody starts out as invisible. Then you move to an expert. And when you're an expert, you're generally known locally. You've got clients, you've got clientele, you're starting to build the business, you're bringing money in, may not be consistent, but you actually have a business because you are being seen as that expert, and you've learned how to sell, you've learned how to communicate, you've learned how to start letting people see who you are. The next level is authority. And that's someone who has a well-established business. They're known more than locally. They tend to start to have a social media following. They're moving from a one-on-one model. So one-on-one meaning that, you network, you meet new people, you convert one person at a time. Most authorities start to work on moving to the one-to-group model. So that's where, you're getting on stage, you're getting on media, you're doing podcasts. So you're speaking to more than one person at a time. Also, when you're an authority, and Bob spoke to this in his message, is about getting referrals. And when you're an authority, referrals come to you. And I can tell you in the last year, it's been an amazing experience as I have become that authority to have business come to me totally, completely unexpected, just from referrals from people, some of them my clients, and some of them just people that I talked to once that I made such an impression on that they're now referring other business to me, even though they haven't personally worked with me. And then there's influencer. Now, those are people like Oprah Winfrey and Tony Robbins and all those kinds of people. And that's not something that you get too quickly. That's usually built up over years. Like they become this overnight success, but what you don't see is the 5 to 10 years ahead of time that they spent building that overnight success. So you can't go from being invisible to an influencer. I'm sorry, it just doesn't happen. Can you go from being invisible to authority? Yeah, in about a year, 18 months, 2 years. If you put in a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of really just getting yourself out there and being visible, yes, you can. But there is a very quick way from going from invisible to expert. And expert's actually when you start to make money in your business. And the way that you do that is by writing a book. There is a perception that authors are experts. And I'll tell you a story, and some of you may know who this is, though I won't mention her name today. I met her a few years ago, and when this happened, it actually happened before I met her, but she's now my client. She had contracted hepatitis as a child, didn't know it, didn't find out until she was in adulthood. And then she had to learn how to live with hepatitis, and she was very sick with it. She didn't even know. And so she learned a lot of things about living with hepatitis C. And even when she was diagnosed, they didn't even know there was hepatitis C. There was hepatitis A and B. And about a year afterwards, they gave it the hepatitis C name. And she decided to write a book just to help others who were living with it. And before she even finished writing the book, she ended up on radio, she ended up on television, and she ended up speaking at one of the biggest hepatitis conferences in Toronto, which doctors couldn't get on that stage. And the difference was she was writing the book on hepatitis C. She hadn't even finished it yet. She had written enough to prove that she was writing it. And so the perception of an author being an expert is something that you can use to build your business faster. Now, I'm going to kind of shift gears here because I always like to give you some place to start. You know, maybe you're not ready to write a book yet, or maybe you are, but you're in the beginning and you still want to be able to be shown as that expert that you are. So I always want to do a quick teaching with everybody on your introduction. That is the first impression that people have about you, is when you introduce yourself. So I'm going to talk and teach and train on that. And I'm going to give you 4 introductions that you can use to build your business. And I'm just going to quickly here. Just grab a couple things I need here. So I'm going to keep talking while I'm grabbing this stuff because I forgot to do it earlier. Okay, so when you're introducing yourself, I'm going to teach you 4 ways, but just quickly before we get into that. When you introduce yourself, you have to do it with confidence. You have to believe that you are the expert. So when you're introducing yourself, you should have good body language. If you're standing, then your feet should be about shoulder width apart. Your arms should be relaxed. Your shoulders should be back. You need to look people in the eye. And yeah, Bob forgot to plug in his laptop. I forgot to grab my stuff. So you need to look them in the eye when you're introducing yourself. shaking hands. Okay. Obviously, right now, shaking hands is a massive taboo, but at some point, shaking hands will become socially acceptable again. So when you shake a hand, and this is especially for women, please do not give a weak, wimpy kind of whatever. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you should grip a person's hand to break it, but it should be good. It should be firm. It should say, I know who I am and I like who I am. Okay. Do not give like this soft, wimpy female handshake. You're an expert. Show it. Now, let's get into the introduction here because we are running out of time. The 4 ways to introduce yourself. Please do not say, my name is and I am a. Boring. It's what everybody does. If you want to be visible, you have to stand out and you have to do something unique. So that leads to the first one, a unique title that piques interest. You heard me when I introduced myself earlier. I am Kim Thompson-Pinder, the extraordinary word ninja, and sometimes I just leave it there. I don't even say, and Chief Visionary Officer of RTI Publishing. It depends on the situation that I'm in, but most times I actually just introduce myself as the extraordinary word ninja. And people are like, what's a word ninja? And she's extraordinary, like she's claiming to be extraordinary, and what's a word ninja? So people kind of want to find out who I am because the title itself is just really interesting. Now, when you do that, that starts a conversation. And here's the thing, you don't always have to tell them exactly what it is that you do. You have to give them something, but don't make it boring. You know, like, don't get me wrong. Okay. I love people in the financial and real estate industries, but their attitude is like, kind of like, well, I'm just a real estate broker. No, you're not just a real estate broker. You help people to find their dream homes, which actually speaks to number 3. So we will get to that. But you want to come up with an interesting title. When you're in the financial industry, don't say you're a financial advisor. And Maria, you are an accountant. That is what you do, but that's not necessarily how you have to introduce yourself. Come up with, you could say something like, you can call yourself the numbers guru. That, I like that. You're the numbers guru, right? And people are kind of like, oh, what's a numbers guru, right? And then you when people ask you that, you don't say I'm an accountant. Then you're going to, when we get to question number 3, is tell people how you help them. Okay. I help people make sense of the financial numbers in their life. Right? See, as soon as you say accountant, people have a preconception and they're kind of like, oh, okay, you're an accountant. You're a accountant. You're in the ocean of obscurity. So again, you want to be unique. The second way is ask a question. Now, I was at a networking event back in September here in the Midland area, and the lady introduced herself with a title that I have no clue what it meant. And I'm pretty sure, except for the people that she's talked to for a long time, had no clue. It was some sort of medical title, and it was so unique, I had no clue what it was. Okay, and I'm a word ninja. I've got a pretty decent vocabulary. So I suggested to her that instead she ask people questions. I was trying to come up with a unique title for her, but she's so specific. I was finding it hard. So I said, well, why don't you just start asking people questions? So, I forgot one very important thing. When you are doing introductions, let the other person talk first. Ask them questions. Let them talk and talk and talk and talk, because that's giving you the information you need to determine if this person's going to be a really great lead for you. Or if they're just someone you're going to have a conversation with, or maybe there's someone who's connected to your target market, even though they're not a client themselves. So let them talk first. Let them talk, ask lots of questions, get to know them, really listen. Okay, and then you're going to introduce yourself. So ask a question. So In Bob's case, he might say, have you ever kind of felt invisible in your business? Like you really want people to see you and yet they don't? Ask questions. Don't tell them what you do until later on. Tell people how you help them. Good, Bob. I'm glad you're stealing that. Tell people how you help them. So, let's say a real estate agent. So you don't say that you're a real estate agent. You say to them, I help you find and get to live in the home that you've dreamed of since you were a child. Now, does that sound better than I'm a real estate agent? Of course it does. Now, one of the biggest ways, so what I want you guys to do is while I'm continuing to talk, I want you to think of some titles for yourself and put them in the chat box. Now, one of the easiest ways to actually do an introduction and generate a lead from it is with your book. So when you have your book with you, and I've got a copy of my 31 productivity hacks for the busy entrepreneur. This is not available on Amazon. It's just one that I occasionally give away. And my copy here is all kind of bent, and you can see it's kind of well used. So you want a copy of your book that is well used. You don't want it looking nice and pretty. And so when you introduce yourself, you could say, now in this case, let's pretend, because I am writing the Author to Authority book, which is coming out this year. So let's pretend this is my Author to Authority book. So I might introduce myself by saying, well, I'm the author of the Author to Authority. So I teach people how to become the authority in their niche. And I hand them the book while I'm saying that. And what happens is, you can't quite see it because I'm having a hard time holding it up here. But when you hand people the book, they're going to open it up and they're going to start reading it. And you watch their body language. If they're reading it, they're engaged with it, they're smiling, and you can see that they're really connecting to the book, then you're going to do this next step. If they're not showing any interest, then you just take the book back from them and you just continue the conversation in however the conversation goes. But if they're really interested in the book, and you can tell because they're smiling, they're reading it, their eyes are getting bigger, you kind of take it back from them while you say, would you like a copy of the book? And you need to take it back from them because you don't want them to keep this copy. And when they say yes, you're going to look at them and you're going to say, listen, I didn't bring a lot of books with me because they start to get heavy after a while. And normally I'd give you this one, but this one is my special copy of the book. It's, one of the first ones that I got. And I just kind of keep this copy for me. And, you may want to highlight stuff in it and things like that. But you know what? If you give me your name, your address, your phone number, your email address, like all that kind of stuff. And do you notice I'm just keeping it very relaxed, like all that kind of stuff, right? You don't want this. You don't want to seem like a vulture. You're just like, oh yeah, if you want it, great. If you give me all this information, I'll gladly pop you a book in the mail. So again, this is why you need to pre-qualify people, because you're not going to send books out to everybody. That costs money. So you want to pre-qualify and make sure first that they are a qualified lead. And then you send them the book. See, now here's the amazing thing. Most times people can generate the leads, but then they don't know how to follow up with them. This gives you a reason to follow up, because about 7 days later, you can call them and say, hey, it's Kim Thompson-Pinder. Remember, we met at the Network and Learn event, and you had wanted my book, and I put one in the mail for you. And I was just wondering, did you receive it? You have a reason to call them now. And once they say, yes, I've received it, it's like, oh, did you get a chance to read it? Like, get really excited. And when they say yes, you say to them, you say to them, sorry, it just gave me an extension so we can actually talk a little bit more. Actually, I've got to be off by 3:35, so we don't have a ton of time. You now have a reason to call them. And when you ask them what they've read that resonated with them, That's usually the area that they're struggling in, which then opens up opportunities for you to provide a ton of value to them. And you don't sell them on that call. You book another call where you can dive deeper into the problem, provide them solutions, and then offer your solution. So, oh, good. Thanks, Chantel. Yes, it did pop up. I did extend it by 30 minutes, but I do have to be on with a client at 3:35. So we only got a few minutes left, but I just wanted to give us that extra minute or two past. So anyway, that's how you lead with a book. And I have a whole course on this, which you can get for free, which I'll explain in a minute. Click back over here. All right. So today, if you are not an author yet and you want to be, I have a really amazing course which takes you from point A, I want to write a book. By the time you're finished this course, you've created your outline, you've written your book, you've formatted the book, you've edited the book, you've created your covers, and you know how to get it up on Amazon. And you can do this all in 90 days, though if it takes you longer, that's fine too. And in this course, I have 10 promises. So the first one is it won't cost you $5,000 or $10,000 or $4,000 or $3,000. Promise number 2 is I will work with you to determine your target market and what the main theme of your book will be. Promise number 3 is I will help you create the outline of your book. Promise number 4, you will know how to write your story in a way that attracts clients and customers to you. Promise number 5 is you will learn how to write a chapter the right way, and there is a right and wrong way to do it. Promise number 6, I will give you the tools you need to properly edit your book. Promise number 7, you will learn the easy way to format your book right from the beginning. If publishing companies tell you that you absolutely have to pay them to format your book because it's way too difficult, that is a lie. Formatting, yes, is very time consuming. It's very eye straining. But if you do it and you learn how to format your book from the time you begin writing it, by the time you're done with what I teach you, you have to do very little formatting to get your ebook. Now, you will have to do more formatting to get your print book, but I teach you that too. Promise number 8, you will have the resources you need to create a beautiful cover. Promise number 9, you'll be able to self-publish your book on Amazon for print on demand. And promise number 10, you'll be able to self-publish your book on Amazon for Kindle. And if you know Les Brown, this is his daughter, Ona Brown. I've been working with her recently. You can see her book up there in the background. And she says, I crossed paths with Miss Kim through a well-respected colleague who sung her praises to me. And now we sing together in harmony the same song. We love Kim. Her writing makes us win. Kim is super easy to work with, and she magically takes my spoken words and makes them sparkle on the page so that I may shine on and off the stage. Kim, thank you for being my hidden gem. My life is much easier because of you. Dr. Ona Brown, the dream queen and the message midwife. So the cost is not $3,000, $2,000, $1,000. The normal sale cost right now is $297. And just so you know, I'm working on the last of the videos for it. I've got more than half the videos done. And so one of the reasons why I'm offering a lower price is because I'm not quite finished it yet. But you have everything you need to actually get the book written. It's just some of the supplementary stuff. So you're going to get over 20 videos that teach you everything you need to know. There's 24/7 access to the videos. There's a secret Facebook group for questions and support. There's a printable workbook, and plus you get 2 hours of time with me and my team to ask any questions that you want. Plus bonuses. So you get the printed workbook, and actually, if you want the 31 productivity hacks for the busy entrepreneur, it is in the workbook. There's also a writing devotional, 31 writing devotionals, day devotional for you in this workbook as well. So you get all of them. A little interesting with the microphone here. Okay. You also get a leather-bound journal sent to your home. you get the membership to my online networking group, but we're actually going to be doing that for free. And you get 10 social media quote graphics for $47. And the one thing I didn't put on there is if you want to learn more about doing those 4 introductions, I have a course called Power Words. And you actually get that course for free as well. So that's part of it. So you'll learn how to use those introductions effectively. So, I forgot to change the slide from last week. So the sale price is $197 Canadian. And if you go to planproducepublish.com/course, and I will put that in the chat box for you, you can get it at that price today.